Hello, everyone. This is Marita, one who catches lightning, with the Path of Ish podcast, Walking with Our Shadow, where we share ancient indigenous teachings of remembrance, all so we can walk and learn how to walk a path of radical self-love. Hello, everyone. Let's do that again as we kind of settle into this space, into this opportunity to connect again. As you know, I've taken a little bit of a break to reset and recover, which is always necessary to be honest about our capacity at different times, knowing that it can change. So let us greet the directions as we take the time to come into the circle and start being playful and courageous as we speak about measuring capacity as one of the topics of today. And so just take a moment to settle into your space. And when we do so, it is an acknowledgement of where you are, to be conscious of your surroundings, to be conscious of what you are creating and how you're participating in. And then, once we acknowledge the directions and step into the circle, acknowledge that we are stepping outside of time. Acknowledging that we're stepping into a cultural exchange, acknowledging that we're stepping in and allowing circle to hold all. Circle holds everything. It does. It's a shape that allows everything to be held and everything to be brought up. Whether we agree or disagree, whether we judge or not judge, whether we compete or not compete, it can be a lot. There's nothing perfect about circle because it does bring up our differences, but holds them. Not in a way of erasure, but allowing things to be. Now, the Western world is not based on circleness. It is based on square. It is based on other forms of what we call blueprints. And most importantly, I would say the number one blueprint that is held by the Western world is a line. That timeline of creating a creation start, accomplishment, and then end. Those who work well and build things and manifest things in a Western society are very familiar with square, such as our banking systems that, well, maybe they're not doing such a good job. But it's a different way. Things get lost in the corners. It does slow you down. But that getting lost in the corners is where a lot of things are swept under the rug. To build square upon square, everything has to be the same, while circle allows for difference. So let us take a moment to recognize and just check in. Are you operating out of that line that is exhausting to operate? Are you operating in circleness? Or are you operating out of square? You want certain things to look a certain way. You want to be accepted a certain way. You want to build on that and have others reflect back on you that what you're building is correct. Many times people come to circle thinking that it means sameness. thinking that circles are just warm and fuzzy, but circle allows for dissonance, confrontation, and difference. They are not always warm and fuzzy. Circle as a shape, has no attachment to that. So I wanted you to take a moment to just check in. Do you have an attachment to the word of circle or what you think being in a circle is, or communities that say they are in circleness, yet you have certain expectations of sameness? If there's an expectation of sameness, that is not circle. If there's an expectation of, oh, we all think the same and get along, that is not circle. Now that we've checked in and see where we're operating from, right? Neither is better or worse. You just need to know what program you are running information through. Because once you know, you can make a conscious decision. You can become aware of a mode of operating that you probably are not even aware of because you just have been like this always. Or even in your awakening, it's just been maybe the methodology, not even the methodology, maybe the things that you are now attracted to are different, but you're still operating in a similar system. And we see that all the time, right? Marketing campaigns do an amazing job of taking a product and rebranding it and selling it to you for more. How many versions of Coke and Pepsi cans have we seen since the beginning of these companies? Yet we still buy them, even though the formulas have changed, even though the look of it has changed, and we get excited about, half times and things like that. So instead of rebranding, let us be honest today about our capacity to look at ourselves, our capacity to be honest with ourselves, our capacity to accept difference. And so, with that, let us turn to the east. This direction that reminds us that the sun comes up, that we can begin again, that in a brand new day. And so, in this moment, we're asking the east to hold newness for us, that which we do not know, that which we do not hold, an opportunity. And then we're going to thank the east, and then we're going to circle down right to the south. This is where the south allows us in our newness to start fruiting, right? This is the time in this hemisphere, at the time of summer where things are fruiting, right? They're existing. They're growing. They put on quote unquote flesh, right? Your fruit grows and gets ripe. And then when it gets ripe, we thank the south for that opportunity to grow, right? In the east, we have newness. We're growing in that. We're gaining flesh. We're adding to it. And then we thank the south and we go up to the west. And when we're approaching the west, we're asking the west to approach and help us gather what we know and we do not know. And we gather change. We look back on that fruit that we planted, that seed that we planted, to see how far have we come? How far can we go? And what do we have now? It's neither good nor bad. It has fed us. But are we going to want to plant that seed again? And so then we make that decision, right? When we go up into the north, we thank the west and we circle up to the north. Because the north is where we gather the seed from the fruit. And that's where you make a decision. Wow, did I plant well? Did I grow what I wanted to grow? Maybe I planted it in a place where it didn't grow well. Or do I like what I grew? Ah, I do. Okay, then I will gather the seeds and I will replant them. Or if you do not like what grew, or you do not have the capacity at that time for it, maybe you harvest the seeds and you wait. You wait till you have more capacity. You wait till there is more fields open, more time in your life, or more spaciousness. Sometimes spaciousness has nothing to do with time, but we need space to grow. And many times what I see is people think they have a larger capacity than they have, and then they overcrowd things. And when you're planting a field and you overcrowd things, then everything is fighting for competition. Not everything's going to grow. And then we thank the north and we come back down to the east and we ask to enter into the circle. And as we enter, we recognize we are stepping into a cultural exchange, that we are stepping outside of the time that we are living in. And with that, we open the circle. So we've been kind of already bringing in and weaving in these conversations of capacity and difference. I want to weave in another piece of this as we start breaking down and talking about Ik. We're going to be talking about Ik a lot. Ik in the Mayan calendar is a symbol of wind. At the path of Ish, we have woven together with permission a beautiful breath practice that we are launching in Australia soon. And this has been, I would say, lifetimes of work together. And definitely we've been working diligently over the past 3.5 years to weave this together. And we had to wait. We had to wait for the capacity. We had to wait to acknowledge the difference of launching things in time. And part of what is going to make Ik very successful is it will be held by different visions, different people who, when were approached and have been training with me, were asked to stand in their medicine, not to become the same. And so by its nature, this breath practice, this indigenous breath practice that we're going to be launching, and this is beyond the 3 breaths that we do here. That's just the beginning. That's just the beginning of Ik breath practices. So in and of its nature, it has in its medicine woven tradition. It has permission. It has acknowledgement of differences. This is why this practice was created, and holds difference as something important. And it is a practice to really tap into our capacity. And when I talk about capacity, I say tap into capacity, I'm not speaking about it in the Western world of, oh, I can get to do more. If I do this practice, I can do more. That might happen. But what it is to bring you an awareness of now, in this time, in this space. What do I have now? We bring our attention to the now, not to the past, and not to the future. But now, what capacity do I have now, at this moment? Because what happens is we don't measure our capacity now, we measure our potential of capacity, and then we overwhelm ourselves, and then we never get to our potential of capacity because we don't acknowledge the steps necessary to hold certain knowledge or certain teachings or certain medicine, even just what you would consider a simple 3 breaths. Many times in our excitement of things, we overload. So sometimes acknowledging that we have a tendency to overload beyond our capacity is such an amazing opportunity to welcome ourselves, to really look at where we're at in the present moment and decide if we want to continue living like this, exhausted, tired, overwhelmed. The Western world wants you to live like that. It does not want you to take your time because it has determined that time is money. And since time is money and you are never enough and there's never enough money, we get stuck in that trap. Many times out of just necessity. This is not saying that we should not work. I am definitely a proponent of pro work. But the way that you approach it and the energy that you give to different things, you have to be aware of. Many times, what I see is many people giving their 110%, which is impossible. And if you're giving your 110% to everything, what do you really have left? And what are you actually giving? There are some things that you can be fully present in and not have to give your 110%. And some situations actually ask us to receive more than we give. And those are usually circumstances that make us really uncomfortable, or we feel that we have to reach a breaking point to receive. I remember a basketball coach I had a long time ago who, well, we won't even go into the misogyny and whatever. And he coached, quote unquote, girls basketball, teenagers. And what a vulnerable time to be taught, right? And this gentleman, other than his propensity for a lot of things, one teaching that he focused everything on, right, was making us physically fit. Because his idea was that really that whoever was the last man standing was going to win the game, because he really didn't think that women were very talented for basketball. I don't know why he was teaching us. So he knew that we didn't have talent enough to win, right? So his whole vision was to make us run so that we were physically fit, so we were the last people standing. Well, sometimes when you're the last person standing, you still don't win. And sometimes when you're the last person standing, you've been taught to not acknowledge your differences, your capacity, and your potential. So I just want to take a moment and just do a check in, and let's just use our 3 breaths to check in, right? And we're checking in, we're taking these 3 breaths, and we're acknowledging the different parts of ourselves. And we acknowledge the different parts, the different way that our mind is intelligent and has its own capacity, the intelligence of our body and its capacity, and the intelligence of our essence and its capacity. When we're looking to have a conversation with all 3, we're not expecting all 3 to give 110%. We're also not looking to reach what we call in our circles neutrality or balance, expecting them all to be 100%. We understand that depending on this time and this space, in this moment, the capacity of each one might be different. And that's not something to get angry about or change to get more capacity, but to acknowledge that 100% is from co-creation. So let's take our 3 breaths now. Remember, we take them in and out through the nose. That physically, biologically works with our vagus nerve, right? And let's take our first breath in and out through the nose now. Calling and checking in with our mind, its capacity, its difference in this time and in this space, in this place. In and out through the nose. That's feeling good. Acknowledging our body, its difference, its intelligence, its capacity in this time, in this space, in this place. In and out through the essence, through the nose. Through the essence, that'd be funny. In and out through the nose. Acknowledging our essence in this time, in this place, in this space, with its own capacity, its difference. And as you bring them into the circle, we start to see how potential is co-creation. We start to acknowledge that difference is co-creation. We start to acknowledge and be able to really be discerning about capacity. And when we have that discernment, that real talk about capacity, that real talk of acknowledging, honoring the differences of our parts, then we can see potential, because potential is co-creation. It's not the muscling through in a situation. So as we allow and bring in this relationship of wind, which is constant change and communication, we are not looking to land at a constant time. This practice isn't to, even it's, if you do it consistently, isn't for it to land you in a place of non-relationship. Instead, it's supposed to land you in a place of relationship, of acknowledgement, not the lack of things, but the true acknowledgement of everything that's going on in the moment. Your wandering thoughts, the aches of your body, the drive of your and vision of your essence. Your irateness at a sound, right? Your running mind coming up with lists, or not trying to quiet anything, or having the mind operate like the body, or the body like the mind, or the essence like anything. Or acknowledging that even there is a potential for them, number one, to not acknowledge that the others exist. That's usually what I find out. And number two, that they don't speak the same language. And number three, that they're in competition. If you come from a culture of competition, that might even include the last man standing, the last person standing as a way to win. Is that how you're running the relationship between your body, your mind, and your essence? And just because one is winning, it doesn't mean it actually has the capacity for your potential or the potential for whatever you're trying to achieve at that moment. Warm bodies in a situation sometimes are worse than no body. So as we let that all kind of settle, as we stay curious, let us enter into a small exercise. And so let us take our 3 breaths and ask the circle to hold this meditation and this exercise. So let's take this 3 breaths again and see if these 3 breaths are a little bit different. They should be, because this is a different time. In and out through the nose, bringing the body into this time and space. In and out through the nose, bringing the mind into this time and space. In and out through the nose, really bringing that essence. And asking them to participate in this meditation. Now, they might not all want to participate, and if they don't, then you have to negotiate. And negotiation does not mean being a bully to your parts. And if they don't all want to be on board, acknowledge that, and that's the capacity that you're coming with. Maybe your mind doesn't have the capacity for this, so you need to let it sit out. But do your body and your essence want to join? Then fine, that's fine. And you acknowledge then that your mind is running probably at, 5 to 10%. It's too tired. It's overwhelmed. So now what you're asking is you're asking your body and your essence to be the ones to really step into this meditation. So even non-participation is participation. If you are consciously choosing, if you're consciously aware and make that choice that I can't do this right now. And if all of them disagree to do this, then this is when you step away. Then you come back later when they are ready. If you are not feeling this right now, you do not have to push yourself through this. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you come back to this. I hope that you find ways on Patreon to support us, and I hope that we'll see you in these EEG trainings that we're launching in Australia. Thank you for your time, and thank you for being here. Now, for those who are staying, right? It doesn't mean you have more capacity. It means you're conscious of your capacity now. It doesn't mean that you are better than those that consciously knew that they didn't have enough for that. That means we're just operating in our differences and acknowledging the beauty of that, not the better or worse of it. So I want to go through a series of questions, and these series of questions are really time-based. So we're going to play with instead of this time and in this place. I want you to ask each of your parts, your mind, your body, and your essence, right? And they all will answer. So this is a great journaling prompts, right? And the first question is, when was the last time each was happy as an individual? The second question would be, when were they each happy with each other? The third question is, what is their experience of joy? What does joy look like for your mind? What does joy look like for your body? What does joy look like for your essence? Next question. How do they experience in their individuality, in their differences, anger? How do they feel it? How do they express it? Next question. How do each one of these intelligences receive love? How do they experience love? Next question. How do these three parts experience grief? Each one. Body, mind, essence. Now, as you step back and start looking at what you're writing, the next question is, are you ready to acknowledge differences within yourself and with other beings? Not just humans, other beings. And then the next question is, if you're willing to acknowledge these differences, that where are you on your path to embracing difference as potential co-creation? And then the opposite is, where are you on your journey of sameness? Wanting to everything to be the same. Getting frustrated by things or differences of opinions. And now, the final question is, as you look at all of this, recognizing and starting to see how these parts of you maybe speak differently, have different ideas of things, as we're starting to be playful about differences, do you at this time have the capacity to hold difference in yourself and others? And any other questions that arise, take time to sit with them. And I highly recommend going bit by bit, going through the three intelligences. And there are much more. We start with three. And once you are done, give thanks. Give thanks for your willingness to participate. Give thanks to your parts. Send them a little gift. They might like being gifted in different ways. Maybe one wants a hug, one wants a song, one wants a dance. And after you gift them, let's take our 3 breaths. Taking that moment to thank our essence. Taking a moment to thank and acknowledge the differences that we have between our body, mind, and essence. And thanking that body for hosting these differences. In and out the nose with that 3rd breath, bringing it back to the mind and allowing ourselves this. And with that, let us thank all of the directions, the east, the south, the west, and the north, for holding us. I'd like to thank all my teachers for allowing me to teach and to share with you these teachings, these philosophies, for trusting me to teach in a way that is in a good way, in a responsible way. And I hope that we will see you as we launch this new breath practice, where we recognize the indigenous people and traditions that they come from. So I'd like to thank the moonwalkers at this moment, who are a big part of this. Thanking them always for their teachings and for their guidance, for I still study with them. And for holding the imagery of our differences, our capacity, and our potential. Shide. Once again, it is with deepest gratitude that I bow to you for joining me on this podcast, this episode, this circle, this plática, this meditation, this remembering. I hope that you have stayed curious. I hope to see you in the circle again next week. So make sure that you like or follow. Until then, may you be blessed with abundance of peace and radical self-love.